So the question is, we know that there have been a lot of settlements or potential settlements coming with a lot of the Ivy Leagues in particular and the Trump administration cracking down on anti-Semitism, cracking down on wokeism, and those sorts of things. But is it working? You know, we often caution, they may say we're doing away with DEI or the position of DEI director or whatever. Does that mean it goes away, or it just becomes a name of some other kind of woke way they do it subversively? Adam Guillette is with us. He's president of Accuracy in Media. He's been looking at this. And Adam, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I wondered about this, and people have said this to me before in some of their corporate settings, so I wondered if it wasn't the case in academia as well. They say, Chris, DEI is not dead. They just named it something new. Is that what you're finding at university level?
Unquestionably. We definitely see that a little bit in corporate America, and we've done some research related to that. But our team of investigators goes into red states where DEI has been banned by state law or has been prohibited by the Board of Regents, not merely states where they might go along with the executive order, which might be held up in the courts, but rather red, supposedly conservative states where this is illegal. And what we see again and again, university after university, is that all these people do is simply change their job title, change the name of the department, and they keep doing the same radical Marxist work.
Wow. And that, I'm sure, would apply to a lot of their race-based stuff. I wonder how sincere, then, do you question how sincere the crackdown on anti-Semitism is, for instance, fostering all this pro-Palestinian rot that happened over the last year? I suppose that's kind of one and the same. Maybe that's not specifically what you studied, but I would guess probably part of the same deal.
Well, you're right, because right now we're obviously seeing the federal government making deals with universities like Columbia, where they've got violent anti-American anti-Semites. They're proposing deals with UCLA, with Harvard. Well, that's like making a deal with the Ayatollah. That's like making a deal with Kim Jong-il back in the day. You know, the very next day after Columbia agreed to a deal with the federal government, which included a prohibition on masks on campus, their president was heard on a hot mic saying, yeah, we're not actually going to do that. Because think about it for a second. At these universities, it's not merely that they've got bad presidents. They've got a massive faculty that is far left. Many of their students are far left. And more than ever, they have a massively bloated administrative staff that is also radically anti-American. So if the presidents of these universities even actually wanted to go along with the Trump administration, well, they would be the most hated person on campus.
Yeah, you mentioned that video streaming after this University of Iowa employee caught on video, you write, admitting to defying the new law. Governor Kim Reynolds issued a statement and said, I'm appalled by the remarks made in this video by a University of Iowa employee who blatantly admits to defying DEI restrictions I signed into law. I already issued a letter to the Board of Regents in January reminding representatives of the universities to comply, not only with state law, but an executive order signed by Trump and which ends DEI policies at public institutions. I'll be referring this matter to the Attorney General of Iowa for review. Kim Reynolds doesn't play, but if this is going on in Iowa, you can damn sure bet it's going on in purple and blue states, yes?
Well, we investigated Texas and found it there. We investigated North Carolina and got 4 administrators fired across the state, including a dean of students. And the Board of Regents in Iowa yesterday put out a statement in response to our videos. They said they're going to make sure the faculty doesn't push far-left ideas. Talk about being clueless. Because one, I don't think they even realize what DEI is. It's not a new version of affirmative action. It's a prism in which they look at the world, where they describe America as an oppressor state. Israel, I guess, is an oppressor state. England, Canada are oppressor states. And they describe others as oppressed. And they say that it's okay to use violence against an oppressor because it's merely resistance. That's how they justified the October 7th terror attack. That's how they justify violence against law enforcement. And the problem isn't merely the faculty. We had an issue with faculty 30 years ago. Now, that's the least of our problems. The problem is that administrative staff at universities has grown 20 times faster than faculty. And all these are activist positions. These are the DEI staffers, the LGBTQ section staffers, the feminist staffers. These are political activists who are paid by your state government in red states to organize activism and to promote ideology on college campuses. The regents made no mention of them at all. They have no idea what's going on.
And the thing is, and by the way, we're with Adam Guillette, who's president of Accuracy in Media, AIM.org, if you'd like to follow them online. We were just talking about this, I think, late last week. Colleges are hemorrhaging enrollees. People are just not going. Parents, kids are deciding it's not worth it, going into massive debt for a degree that may not even end up paying me anywhere close to getting me out from under the debt I'm accruing just to get the degree. So a lot of them aren't going. And what you have now are a lot of these woke campuses with giant empty buildings. It's getting so bad that they're partnering. I couldn't believe this. And in one sense, I think it's kind of an interesting idea. They're partnering with senior living people and turning some college campus empty buildings into senior living facilities. No kidding. I mean, that's what's happening to the university setting, because people just don't want this garbage anymore. I'm convinced this is what drives it, as well as cost.
Well, that's exactly it. And the cost, that the debt that they incur is from this massively bloated administrative state that they've created over the last 15 to 20 years. It's gotten to the point which we joke, and it's no longer a joke, that this isn't higher education. It's not academia. It's an activist organization that runs a med school on the side. If some people learn in the engineering department, that's great, but that's merely a fortunate byproduct of them going to college at the far left activist factory, which is what this is. And it's not about, oh, this is a bad campus, this is a good campus. I've spent the last 20 years going to college campuses throughout North America. The first thing students say to me when I arrive every time is, you don't know how bad it is here. Unless you're at Hillsdale, unless you're at Liberty, it's bad everywhere. And some of the red states are some of the worst because these administrators think they're on an evangelical mission to spread far left ideas.
Just two other related notes now, not in red communities, of course, but this story today, Mr. Guillette, that the Trump administration says George Washington University has violated the law over Jewish students and faculty. Specifically, the U.S. Department of Justice said in a statement that George Washington University acted deliberately indifferently to the hostile education environment for Jewish students, as well as American Israeli students and faculty during Palestinian protests in April and May of last year. And then Harvard, as you know, and the Trump administration are close to a $500 million settlement as well. So the university system is still squarely in the sights of the Trump administration. But to your point in your report, the Trump administration can only do so much. The states and communities therein are going to have to enforce this stuff or scrutinize it further.
Well, that's exactly right. George Washington is bad. Even George Mason, if you've heard, has gone far left and radical. And these aren't just Jew-hating anti-Semites. Most of them primarily hate Western civilization. They view Israel as an oppressor state. They view America as the great Satan. Israel's merely the little Satan. George Mason University, the FBI arrested a number of students who had guns, ammo, death to America, and death to Israel flags. And yes, Harvard might have to pay out $500 million. They have an endowment in the tens of billions. Tuition each semester is, I think, $52,000. So it's chump change to them. These are incredibly wealthy universities that we are subsidizing. Harvard, for example, gets over $1 billion, $1 billion from the federal government annually. Why are we paying our tax dollars to subsidize radically violent anti-American institutions? It needs to stop.
Yeah, and they swoon and say, it's for research. We're doing such important science. We need federal government funds for research. It's just such baloney. As you point out, they've got more than enough money to fund their own research if they're going to continue this stuff. Adam Guillette, Accuracy in Media, AIM.org is where you find them online. Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you for having me.